The 11th benediction starts out, restore our judges as at the first. And it's a prayer that Kol Yisrael, that's all Israel, will once again have a system of judges and right leadership. And so with that in mind, the title for my message is Restore Our Judges. In 16:18 it says, appoint judges and officers within all your gates, which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, according to your tribes. And they shall judge the people with righteous right ruling. Now what do we mean by righteous right ruling? If you hold your finger there and you go back to Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 25, we have the definition of righteousness. It is righteousness for us when we guard to do all this commandment before Yahweh Elohim as he has commanded us. And this is the position and the authority that judges or officers, or whatever term you want to use, leaders, leadership, must do. They have to judge according to the Torah, but when there's something that's outside very specific written instructions, then they have the authority to use their judgment. And if they're good, righteous leaders, it'll be good, righteous judgment, and whatever they decide will be in harmony, total, complete harmony with the Torah. So the judges had to be agenda-free. They couldn't have an agenda, they couldn't have a bias, they couldn't show favoritism toward anyone. Today, this thing called Messianic Worship, I don't care what you want to call it, Messianic Judaism, Messianic Israel, Nazarene Judaism, Nazarene Israel, whatever we want to call it, we have a lot of schisms. Why? Because we don't have a system of judges and officers in place. That's why. Deuteronomy 16:8 is sadly avoided. It's disregarded. There are very few people in whatever you want to term this Messianic movement, very few people who judge with righteous judgment, who have the body at the foremost of their considerations and their thoughts. We are to seek righteous judgment from those appointed to judge. I mean, we're not to go around and get opinions of different people in the congregation as to what's righteous. We're to go to leadership and seek our judgment. And a lot of people may not like that, but that's the system that the Bible has outlined for us. So we can accept it or we can reject it. Do we follow wise counsel only if it suits us? You know, today, if we don't like a particular leader, if we have problems with a particular leader, we can pack up and go to another congregation. People have done this. A lot of people have done this. But chances are, if you have a problem in one congregation, you're going to have a problem in another one. But you know what we have to consider? That if we go running around until we find someone that we like, someone who will tickle our ears, what we have to consider was that in ancient Israel, it was not an option. And in the early first century of the Messianic congregations, that was not an option. There was one congregation in town. And what you had to do was you had to learn to work out your differences. Now, what if we were in that situation? What if we couldn't go to another congregation? What if there was nowhere to go? Well, we disfellowship ourselves. We just quit going anywhere and quit doing anything. Or we learn to work it out. Which one of those two choices would Yahweh want us to take? Learn to work it out. And we know that a false prophet is someone that teaches false doctrine. They teach all kinds of false teachings, heretical teachings. And we see that going on today. We have people out there teaching that the flat earth, the earth is flat, and it's a matter of salvation that you believe it. And people teaching vastly different calendars, and people teaching all kinds of heretical doctrines. But there's another more subtle type of false prophet. And that's someone who wants to teach and isn't really qualified to teach. They have a zeal. They say, I want to serve Yahweh. I want to teach people. But they're not qualified up here or here to teach. And so eventually, even though their intentions are good, they lead people astray. They set themselves up as a leader when they're not a leader. If there's no law, there's no king, there's no leadership. See? But what we have to realize that if we reject leadership, then we refuse to recognize Almighty Yahweh. But brothers and sisters, let us pray for leadership. Let us pray to restore our judges as at the first. Let us pray for our leaders. Let's pray for Rabbi Steve and other leaders in the community, other leaders in MTOI, and other good leaders who are outside of MTOI.